This video is brought to you by Titan Mattress. It's a new year, and if you ask me, getting started on improving your life begins as early as your mattress. I know you know the feeling. A bad night's sleep can really just ruin whatever goals you had in mind for the day, but that's why Titan's got your back. Literally in this case. Titan specializes in making quality mattresses for plus-size individuals such as myself. I know some of you are probably like, John, don't be so hard on yourself, you're not that big. And I'm like, my titties are about as big as my girlfriend's. I'm not fooling anybody. And you don't gotta waste time going to a mattress emporium or any of that. You order these online and they're shipped to your house, safe and sound in a secure box. Installing it is as simple as pie too, and pretty fun. It's like a magic trick seeing it expand to fit your bed frame. I've personally had my Titan mattress for about 2 years at this point, and I haven't looked back. It's one of the most comfortable mattresses I've ever had the pleasure of sleeping on. As someone who works from home, if I don't get a good night's sleep, my productivity just crash and burns throughout the day. But my Titan mattress has legit offered me comfortability and superb back support for myself and my partner. I loved it so much I recommended it to my folks, and soon enough, I got them set up with the Titan Plus Elite to replace their crusty old mattress Steve probably got from a sketchy ass truck anyway. And it's been nothing but peaceful nights since. They really liked it. With Titan, you know you're getting quality and affordability. They're backed by master craftsmen who've been building mattresses for over 30 years. They're rigorously tested to ensure durability, and since they're designed, assembled, and shipped from their Arizona factory, they can use premium materials at a reasonable price for you, and if you live in the US, you get free shipping. Plus, if you're still on the fence, Titan comes with a 120-night sleep trial and a limited lifetime warranty to give you peace of mind with your purchase. Visit titanmattress.com/somecallmejohnny to get 30% off your order with code Somecallmejohnny. Once more, that's titanmattress.com/somecallmejohnny to get 30% off with your order with code Somecallmejohnny. You can also scan the QR code you see on the screen here to get started from your very phone. Thanks to Titan for sponsoring this video, and thank you as always for continuing to support my channel. Now, on with the show. Let's do this. Alright, it's been over 18 years since the last mainline Metroid Prime title. Yeah, I know it might be terrifying to reflect on, but Metroid Prime 3 Corruption for the Wii was released in 2007. But come on, Metroid fans should be used to waiting prolonged time periods between games, spin-off or otherwise. But let's give some additional context for those that don't normally play Metroid games. The long-awaited fourth game in the Metroid Prime lineup was initially announced in 2017, the launch year of the first Nintendo Switch. Obviously, I was excited, as a lot of other Metroid fans were. Holy shit, we're finally getting a new Prime game, and it was going to be developed by Bandai Namco? That should be pretty interesting. But then, things got quiet for a bit. Nothing of note. And then in 2019, it's announced that Prime 4 wasn't meeting Nintendo's expectations, so development of the game basically had to restart, and developing duties were now handed over to Retro Studios, picking up the slack of Bandai Namco. Yeah, it sucked to see something that I was looking forward to getting delayed, but at the same time, it was also reassuring to see that Nintendo really didn't want to risk releasing a potentially subpar game, especially in the Metroid franchise, whose reputation around this time was already in a tumultuous turbine. You gotta remember, while we did get that cool remake of Metroid 2 that arguably came at the cost of AM2R getting blacklisted, which rubbed folks the wrong way, people were still bitter about Federation Force, actual quality of the game be damned. Even so, I had hope Metroid Prime was going back to Retro Studios. They literally developed every other Prime game beforehand, including Metroid Prime Hunters on the DS, but not Metroid Prime Pinball. I think that was a completely different company. Since then, we've been through a pandemic, the release of Metroid Dread, and finally we get our first glimpse of Metroid Prime 4. And initially I was just floored by how pretty the game looked. It was like going from Halo 2 on the Xbox to Halo 3 on the Xbox 360. This was long overdue for the Metroid Prime series, but better late than never. However, as more info about the game was being revealed, albeit at a pace slower than erosion, I couldn't help but feel something was missing. Something about the game looked off, but I couldn't put my finger on it. And then they showed us Samus' new motorcycle. Oh shit, Samus is getting a bat pod, that's cool. But oh dear, I did not like the look of this desert area. A proper playground for the bike, I'm sure, but it did look concerningly barren. It was at this point that I decided to stop looking at teasers for the game. It let me discover the joys and experiences of Metroid Prime 4 through my own eyes, instead of potentially getting spoiled with trailers. Speaking of which, I'm going to put a big old spoiler warning on this one now, since this is the latest game in the Metroid Prime series, but Metroid in general. If you have any inclination of getting this at any point in time, you should probably stop watching now, come back to this video later. I will say now though, buyer beware. Okay, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Here we go. Dark Samus has been exterminated for good and the Phazon menace is a thing of the past. However, the end of Prime 3 showed Samus couldn't rest for long as she was secretly being tailed by what looked like Sylux from Metroid Prime Hunters, a bounty hunter with a personal grudge against the Galactic Federation and Samus herself. Back then, we didn't exactly know what that meant, and for a while that's all we got, but then, believe it or not, Federation Force followed up on this. In that game's secret ending, we're shown Sylux stealing a Metroid egg from a Galactic Federation research area. Oh, what are you gonna do with that Metroid egg, Sylux? Not much! Samus Aran is sent to a Galactic Federation base on planet Tanimar to help their soldiers ward off a space pirate attack, as they believe they're after this mysterious artifact the Galactic Federation recently unearthed. However, it's soon revealed that the one leading the space pirates this time is Sylux, and he's not only got space pirates at his command, somehow, but he's packing Metroids that can fuse into other beings and make them more monstrous. It's like the X-Parasites, but it's Metroids. Okay. Still, Metroid fusion or not, it's not enough to take Samus down, who manages to thwart the space pirates and knock Sylux flat on his ass, but a stray shot from his cannon manages to strike the artifact the Galactic Federation was guarding, causing a chain reaction that sends Samus, Sylux, and a good chunk of the Federation squad to a planet located in an alternate dimension called Vuros. Here, Samus inherits the psychic powers of the Lemorn, an alien species that faced extinction because they fucked up. Their planet was once rich in resources, but because of their advanced developments, they drained it all and attempted to fix shit with this discovery of this green stuff literally called green energy. But all it did was make the wildlife more hostile and corrupt the Lemorn into becoming these savage grievers. And brace yourself, you're gonna be running into grievers a whole fucking bunch in this game. So realizing their fate is sealed, the Lemorn put their faith in Samus Aran, who they view as the chosen one, as the one that'll preserve the Lemorn's legacy and transfer their history to a new planet that'll allow them to eventually start over, where I hope their future generations will learn from their mistakes, otherwise what's just stopping them from fucking that planet up too? And that, folks, is the gist of the story. The whole game's plot consists of Samus trying to escape Vuros by searching for the 5 master teleporter keys scattered across the area to activate the teleporter located on the top of Kronos Tower. Along the way, Samus will also run into stranded Galactic Federation troops like Miles McKenzie, who's the engineer and general fixer-upper, Takabi, who's good with a gun, Nora Armstrong, Samus's biggest fangirl, it's kind of adorable actually, Sarge, who's getting too old for this shit, and finally VUE-995, a GF robot that quickly became my best fucking friend. I love VUE.
Allow me to assist.
Fuck yeah. At certain parts of the story, these guys will assist Samus along her journey, and by that I mean you'll be babysitting them during your adventure because it's safe to assume you'll be doing most of the work. I mean, they pull their weight in the story, and that's just as important, but in-game, especially towards the end, they could be a liability. Except you, VUE, you're cool. That's a robot that gets shit done. Okay, but to get serious for a moment, I don't have anything against the Galactic Federation guys. I think they're just fine. You know, a common complaint in Metroid Prime 3, assuming you didn't mind them being there in the first place, was that we barely got to learn anything about the other bounty hunters accompanying us. You feel kinda bad they get corrupted by Phazon, but it's clear they needed a little more screen time to make them more compelling and impactful. I think Prime 4, for all the shit I'm about to talk about in this video, gets this part right. I find everyone here enjoyable on the screen. I think they needed to do a little more, granted, maybe be a little more involved in Samus's progression outside of just telling her, you go over there, I'll stay here. But there's a chemistry between them when they're all in the room together that I think feels natural. A part of me feels in some alternate timeline, these guys should have been the protagonists of like a separate Galactic Federation game. You know, like Federation Force, but less in a setting that looks like a toy commercial, but more like Halo ODST. That would never happen, granted. I can see the sales figures plummeting from the indifference alone, but I think it could have worked. I'd rather that than what they try to do here, which is the most awkward fucking shit. So I said I don't mind the GF troops when they're banding together to form plans and all that shit. But a lot of time is also spent with them trying to start a conversation with Samus, who doesn't speak in this game. Period. It's a Metroid Prime tradition. Samus doesn't speak in Metroid Prime, and until arguably Prime 3, the stories never really needed her to. The scan logs were enough to fill the gaps, but in Prime 4, these guys are actively asking Samus direct questions for mission briefing and assistance, and she just stares with the occasional nod, and Jesus Christ, it's at its most bizarre when Nora Armstrong enters the story because she's such an adorable, humongous fangirl of Samus. Geeking out seeing her in action, going into Morph Ball, she's us, and fuck yeah, representation. But you know, same deal, Samus doesn't say shit to this girl, and I'm like, Samus, fucking say something. This just feels off. It's not as if Samus can't speak. She's spoken plenty of times. Come on. There would be no harm in having her converse. But nope, she just grunts when she gets hurt, as is Prime tradition. I'd argue the dialogue the Galactic Federation brings to the story is about the most interesting thing about Prime 4's narrative, whatever that is, because hot damn, I don't know, man. I just don't give a shit about the Lamorn. Every time something about them is on the screen, it's either shit we already know about. Like, I can't recall the exact amount of times they go on about how, shit, man, we fucked up. Or it's stuff you can clearly discover for yourself by observing environments and reading scan logs, as you do in these games. But the story will just repeat what you just read in a dedicated cutscene, and maybe they felt it would be better for visual representation. But as someone who's pretty damn thorough in these games, it feels redundant as it gives me no new information. The Grievers are revealed to be corrupted Lamorn. Yeah, I know, logs I read earlier just blatantly tell me this. But this doesn't even begin to compare to how the actual villain of the story, Sylux, gets treated in this. This man is an extra in his own goddamn game. For all that teasing they did, despite potentially diving into Sylux's backstory involving his animosity towards Samus and the Galactic Federation, this man shows up in the intro, accidentally triggers events in motion, gets knocked on his ass by Samus, who, if you read scan logs later, you find out he didn't even know she was going to be at the Galactic base in the first place, and I'm like, what the fuck? It was just a coincidence that these two cross paths? And then after that, this dude physically fucks off until endgame. I'm not kidding. He doesn't show up again until the final battle, well over 12 or so hours later, where it's revealed that he's been healing in this special pod that also gave him psychic powers and gave him access to Kronos Tower's functions. Okay, so in hindsight, he's indirectly involved in everything Samus encounters. The corrupted boss fights the couple of psychic robots that take on his appearance for a few scuffles, and that one time he blew up a bridge. And you see, I wouldn't have much of an issue with that if the game spent any time giving Sylux something to say. He's directly controlling these bots, yeah, from that healing pod of his? Okay, I get he's physically incapable at the moment, but why not have him speak anyway through these robots? Give me a reason to give a shit about this guy. Anything. I'm not asking for Ravenbeak again, but just something. Anything. No, silence. Until the end game, and all he says there is basically, I'm gonna kill you, Samus. Shit, I could have gotten that with the goddamn amiibo. Yeah, this game has amiibo functionality. I only managed to get the Samus and Viola combo in Sylux. I couldn't find the individual Viola Samus, well, without paying a premium anyway, which at that point, I can wait. I already have like 4 other Samuses. It's fine. It's fine. The motorcycle amiibo gives you extra skins for your bike after you travel enough distance. To my knowledge, though, there's no way to unlock this in-game without the amiibo. So unfortunately, if you want to trick out your bike, you got to get this piece of plastic. It's good-looking plastic at least, but why wasn't something like this available through other means in-game? The Sylux amiibo, on the other hand, just gives you a random voiced line from the guy.
I've got you right where I want you, Samus.
That's it. Granted, I didn't have any expectations with this one, but what the fuck? They could have done something a little more than that, yeah? I don't know, maybe a free missile refill or some other shit. Just a random-ass voice line.
This is what I've been waiting for.
I bet you have, you wasted fuck. And can we talk about his visor for a second? I assume that green line on his face is his field of vision, so what the fuck? Can he even see out of that thing? Does he just live life in permanent portrait mode? I want to emphasize, for me personally, Sylux was already fighting an uphill battle because he barely had any character in the first place coming from a game I didn't think much of. I'm not really a fan of Prime Hunters, and his disdain for the Federation and Samus was never anything more than trivia. But I was hoping because they were clearly planting seeds with the guy earlier, and because we all knew he was going to be the villain for this game, they finally go into his backstory. And to be fair, they do at the very end, and only if he got all the items. Sylux was a Federation trooper. He wanted to get his hands on a powerful space pirate weapon to give his troops the edge needed to win. He was told not to do that. He does it anyway, gets people killed as a result, hates the Galactic Federation now. Oh, and Samus, who just happened to be there. His grudge isn't even personal. He's just a whiny bitch. And you know, okay, I don't mind when my villains are petty shitheads, but this wasn't where I was expecting the character to go, which is saying something because I had little expectations to start. Some of you guys were quick to compare him to Infinite from Sonic Forces, but fuck man, I hate Infinite, I do. But at least he was more of a physical presence in his game. Sylux barely exists here, and his lack of presence gives this empty, unfulfilling, and somewhat confusing vibe to the game's story progression. Like folks, I was so convinced because I noticed how absent Sylux was in the story, and because they give so much more screen time to Tokabi, the sniper dude here, compared to the other GF guys, that I thought he was going to be Sylux in disguise. A poison slowly seeping through the Galactic Federation's bloodline, waiting for his moment to strike at them and Samus at their most vulnerable. Almost like he harbors a grudge or some shit like that, and goddammit, that's what they should have done. But they don't do that. Tokabi is just a deeply spiritual dude, and that's fine, he's cool, but Sylux, this guy ain't shit. He's no space pirates, he's no Ridley, he's no Mother Brain, no Ravenbeak, and he's definitely not Dark Samus. I do not care for Sylux, and if the Prime series continues with him back in the villain's chair, they got a lot of work to do to make me give a shit about him. I will say I did find the ending slightly sobering. A part of me genuinely found it sad that despite their best efforts, Samus and the GF troops just couldn't keep Sylux down, forcing Samus to escape Viros with the Lemorne's legacy, while the GF troops decided to stay behind to keep Sylux at bay, essentially sacrificing themselves. Seeing Samus all alone again, planting the fruit that'll eventually grow into a new sacred tree, ensuring the Lemorne's legacy will continue on while placing Tokabi's keepsake on the branch like a Christmas ornament, that was strangely, hauntingly beautiful. Now, this would have hit harder if the game didn't do the whole death fake out with the GF guys earlier in the Great Minds, which was right before this entire sequence right here. Like, that's the entire plot of that area. The GF troops stay behind to deal with the Grievers so that Samus can continue her mission unabated, but then, with no real pizzazz, they're revealed to be fine. No fanfare, no dramatic moment of triumph, it was barely an inconvenience for them. So when they attempt that again here, at first I thought, oh, maybe this time, Samus will put in the effort to save them. I refused to hit the button to escape when prompted. I wanted to see what would happen. Maybe Samus will say, nuts to the Lemorne, I barely know those fuckers, they fucked themselves, they had their chance, but these guys right here, right now, need my help. But that's not what happens. You just die if you don't hit the button. You gotta press the button to escape, leaving the GF troops to die, but for real this time. What the fuck, man? What happened here? This story is so unfocused. I remember thinking like 10 hours into my adventure, what am I doing here? What should I be focusing on? The Galactic Federation? The Lemorne? Where the fuck is Sylux? I understand that the Lemorne want me to plant this memory fruit to a new planet so they can start anew, but I'm like, is that the main plot? I don't know. I think this game should have been less continuing the legacy of folks we not only just met, but are already extinct at this point, and more about getting everybody back home. You got Samus and the Galactic Federation going against a man who has beef with Samus and the Galactic Federation. It was right there. Why wasn't that the central focus? There are more layers there. It's personal, but it's secondary. A footnote in favor of the Lemorne stuff, which, I'm sorry, I didn't find appealing at all. Let's get into the game itself, and for the sake of bringing things back in a more positive light, I want to talk about the shit I really liked about this game first. I did spend like the first 10 or so minutes fucking around with the controls. Metroid Prime is beyond the days of the GameCube controller. With the Pro Controller, you can play the game like a proper twin-stick shooter. And this is what I ultimately decided on, but not without trying to make it as close to Prime 1 for the sake of muscle memory and comfortability. I got close enough, but I did have to compromise because the game brings back Prime 3's free aiming for lock-on, and let me tell you, without turning on the ability to keep the reticle hard locked onto an enemy that has multiple weak spots, that shit by default is mad awkward trying to move the reticle freely with the right analog stick. It was weird at first, but I did start to adjust, and I greatly appreciated the ability to use the shoulder buttons for beam fire. You can also use the Joy-Cons separately to simulate Prime 3's control scheme if you want more precise control with your aim, or just bop the cannon up and down to the beat of the soundtrack. We all have our hobbies. The game also supports the Switch 2's mouse mode, and I gave it a shot. The idea of using mouse controls for an FPS was tantalizing to me. But it was only a couple of minutes in before I decided against it. I'm sorry, but the Joy-Con for me doesn't make a great mouse because the controller is so thin. It's awkward to grip for someone like me and his large sausage fingers. I tried to mitigate this with a third-party add-on to give my hand a larger surface area to move, but that didn't help much. The Joy-Con shoulder buttons are just too thin, and the Joy-Con face buttons are not comfortable at all as macro keys. But you know, that's why they make multiple control schemes for these games. And while I'm disappointed by the mouse function, there's still two other great ways to play the game. God damn, this game is fucking beautiful. It certainly helps that the last Prime game was in 2007 and Nintendo's graphical fidelity has made leaps and bounds in the past 18 or so years. But after Retro Studios remastered the first Prime game for the Switch and seeing hot damn just how gorgeous Metroid Prime can look with modern tech, it gave me a lot of hope for Prime 4, and I think it more than delivered. And for the record, I recorded the Switch 2 version in performance mode, which locks the game at 1080p, but supports 120 FPS for ultra smooth control. And yeah, this game plays as smooth as butter. Movement was responsive, no lag to speak of. You still got the obvious loading screens on elevators or exiting major areas, but maybe I'm just used to this for Prime. I wasn't really bothered by it. what it's worth, I also played a bit in 4K mode and didn't notice much of a control discrepancy. But personally, I'm not really a dedicated 4K player, call me old, but 1080p is just fine for me. If I can't see the individual anal hairs on these guys when they go belly up, I'm not losing sleep over that. Visual effects for beams, missiles, and the rest of Samus's arsenal look clean and crisp. Environments are wonderfully lit. No area visually bored me, not even the dark cavernous areas of the Great Mines. In games like these, I feel environments should help paint a picture and tell a story. Which, as much as I have problems with the game's narrative, fuck, it at least gets this part right from past games. Shit, when I entered the ice belt the first time and saw how the frigid high winds were coating Samus's gun in a layer of frost and moisture, I was mesmerized. I live for that kind of shit. Samus has never looked so damn good for the Prime series. Her classic Varia suit got the glow up of the century, if you ask me. It's just a shame we don't stay in this suit for a little longer. So it doesn't take long for the game to get you the new bike, the Viola, and to even ride this thing, Samus needs to be part of the cool kids club and wear their members only jacket, and that's where her new Viola suit comes into play. And I'm not kidding, this suit's primary justification is just to ride the bike. You know, outside of the general defensive upgrades and all that. And I don't mind the suit that much. It's sleek, it's very glossy, and has a good enough color contrast, but it lacks the texture of the Various suit. At times, she looks like a toy. Later, when you get the heat upgrade, the suit gets a couple more of those purple Tron lines. You know, that's a little better, but the suit primarily looks the same. Near the end of the journey, you get this Legacy suit, which feels like a retread of the light suit from Prime 2. It's fine, but again, outside of color differences, doesn't feel that different from the Viola suit. I'd rather they went a little crazier with the suit designs. As divisive as I am with Prime 2, I love that the dark and light suits were so visually distinct. The dark suit legit is one of my favorite suits in the series. Yeah, it's got that metal thong, but you got goddamn yo-yos for shoulder pads. Alright, let's talk about that new bike though. And really, there isn't much to talk about. The Viola is given to you pretty early in your adventure, during your first visit to the Volt Forge. It's given a lot of build up too. You're rummaging through the assembly line, seeing how the sausage is made, so to speak. You turn the power back on, the machines are doing their magic, this does that, this does this. So it's coming, your brand new toy is on the way, next day free shipping. You get your new suit, you turn the ignition on, and you have to do a driver's ed course. I don't know why, but I found this so funny. Like, I appreciate the tutorial, don't get me wrong, but driving in these basic ass courses doing the most basic ass shit with an objective complete screen right out of a Ridge Racer game just felt so weirdly humorous to me. It's so un-Metroid-like. But yeah, the Viola is mainly a mode of transportation. It comes equipped with a projectile launcher for long-range threats and a boost to tackle the shit out of things in the way. But sad to say, those blocky cubes action figures are always crashing through are sold separately. You can't summon the bike everywhere, and in some spots I really wonder why you can't. But elsewhere, it's a simple push of a button, and there you go. Not much to it, which I find weird given how prominent it was in the trailers. It never amounts to more than a simple bike, and at first I thought later on it was going to get different upgrades to bring different ways of travel. It gets a hovercraft upgrade so that you can travel over lava pits, but that's seldom used in this area for one thing. It's also the only time the bike gets an add-on at all, and functionally, it's no different than how you usually control the bike. Samus doesn't have her gunship in this. I assume it just didn't come with us during the dimensional shift. So I figured the bike would eventually get an upgrade to become a flying vehicle to get to new areas faster, or just to scratch that itch, you know what I mean? Maybe act as a means for fast travel between areas, because fuck man, talk about something this game really needed and bafflingly doesn't. Fast travel. God, alright, Soul Valley. I should talk about that, huh? Let's set the foundation first. So the main gist of the game is collecting the 5 teleporter keys, and as you probably guessed, these are located in different locales across Vyros. You have the lush and vibrant jungles of Fury Green, basically this game's version of the Talent Overworld. Volt Forge is large and imposing. It reminds me a lot of Elysia from Prime 3. The Ice Belt feels like a more spacious Vendrana Drifts from Prime 1. It even has a research facility like the Space Pirate HQ fulfilled in that game too. Flare Pool is Magmore Caverns in all but name. Even the music sounds familiar, but not in the clever sort of homage sort of way, but more like copy your friend's homework but don't make it too obvious sort of shit, you know? Finally, you have the Great Mines, an area I don't mind visually, but fuck, a lot of it is just shooting shit trying to kill you. And if you use missiles, you just make it worse, as the vibrations of the explosions summon more goons to blow up. A part of me likes that limitation to make you think carefully about your situation. At the same time, the area already throws a bunch of mandatory encounters at you anyway that it can make the place drag on longer than it needs to. As is Prime tradition, all these areas will test your combat dexterity, your puzzle solving using the morph ball and other means of utility, and your ADHD when you stop every 5 seconds to scan something for your logbook. For some odd fucking reason, they removed the audio prompt to let you know when you recorded something important. In previous games, the moment you scanned something crucial for your log, you heard
"Recording to logbook."
It was a neat audio cue to tell you, hey, good shit, that one's for log completion. This game doesn't do that. There's still a visual tell that an important log went into the logbook, and that's fine, but now I gotta rely on visual cues more than anything to see if they're important, which I find less snappy than the audio cue. Do you know how many times I scanned a fucking box because I wasn't sure if they were important? There are so many containers in this game that do the exact same shit. You break it open with your cannon and there's shit inside. But the scan visor treats them all like separate objects, and it bugged the shit out of me because I kept thinking, alright, one of these has to be for the logbook, but it never fucking happened. Why'd they do that? It's so weird. I'm getting off track here, I'm sorry about that. Samus is given psychic powers in the beginning of the game. Well, firstly, I don't think the purple visor and Tron lines mesh well with the orange plating of the Varia suit, already giving me a bad first impression, psychic powers. But no, outside of that, the psychic abilities aren't really anything. The most interesting one to me is the control beam. You fire a charge shot which slows down time and lets you hit up to 3 targets. It's like a remote control batarang from the Arkham games. It's pretty cool for puzzle solving, not the most viable thing for combat since it brings the combat's pace to a crawl, no thanks. The scan visor also gets a makeover that makes me look like I'm doing the Ocelot finger point thing more times than I'm comfortable with. Sometimes you scan these psychic points to make platforms appear, maybe the occasional boost rail, but often you're opening a locked door with the power of your mind, which isn't much. You move from point A to point B, basically like fucking around with those toys you see in a doctor's waiting room. Often, the psychic powers are just the game's excuse to give traditional Metroid upgrades a psychic spin on their name. You know, instead of the spider ball, it's the psychic ball. The space jump boots are now the psychic boots. They still perform the same as they did before, but they're psychic now. As I was saying, if you played any Prime game beforehand, Prime 4 really doesn't ask much differently than before. The locales and gameplay loop check a box off of a list. Very safe, very linear. This is the most linear Prime game by a country mile, even more so than Prime 3, which I gotta say that's impressive given how much I thought Prime 3 held your hand. There is never a moment in the game where you won't know where to go, either because the map system will pinpoint your destination as soon as you enter a new locale, or Miles McKenzie will update you on what to do next. And if you're not big on that, sorry to say, you can't turn it off. It is just hard baked into the game's design. But as I said before, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. You know, Metroid Fusion was super linear, and I love the fucking shit out of that game. It's still a little bothersome here though. Ice Belt, you're essentially playing it twice on the same visit. You go deep enough to restore the power, then you backtrack out of it to leave, only now the power is on, there's more shit trying to kill you. The Great Minds, given the circumstances of the story, is almost a straight line. But if the environments and objectives within a world are interesting enough, I don't really mind not having much freedom to find alternate routes and whatnot, as long as I can still have fun. And regarding Prime 4's level design, I think it's good enough. I feel Prime 4 lets me have plenty of fun in the shoes of Samus Aran, you know, with all the beam upgrades and other means of utility. Honestly though, I was kind of expecting Metroid Prime 4 to play it safe anyway. It's not only the beginning of a new story that doesn't have a lick of Phazon or Dark Samus in sight, which means I do think this is a good starting point for those that never played a Prime game before and want an easier time compared to the other games, but it's also the first Prime game in over 18 years. You made a baby when Metroid Prime 3 came out, that baby just graduated high school and is ready to get fucked over by college debt. So the devs deciding to almost keep a strictly formula is not that surprising to me. Beam upgrades could have been handled better. Firstly, they brought back the damn ammo system from Prime 2, and I won't lie, I groaned. I wasn't a big fan of that back then, but it's really no big deal in Prime 4. Expansions to ammo are given out like candy in this game, and ammo refills are universal, no longer separated, so you should always be stocked with ammo for your new beams, and I didn't really find much use out of the fire beam when it wasn't needed to burn shit. And I only used the Thunder Beam for its supercharged shot, which just fucking annihilates mini-bosses and what have you. The Ice Beam is bonkers in this game. If you know the Metroid tradition, you know, freeze an enemy and blast it with a missile, congratulations, you just found the one strat in this game that breaks normal enemies in half. Literally. The Ice Beam just completely locks an enemy in place and ignores any sort of mercy window, so if you're quick on your thumbs, you can switch between the Ice Beam and missiles to completely shut down enemy behavior. It's pretty dope, actually. But whenever you find a new beam upgrade, it's not just given to you like in other games. You gotta go back to base and have Miles install the beam for you, and to mention again, there's no fast travel in this game. No, there sure as shit isn't. So it just feels like an unnecessarily added step to pad out game length and to further railroad your journey into doing things in an intended order. Again, it's to ensure you know what you're doing next and what you can do with your new toy, but I don't know. I just think that's something players can find out on their own. Or maybe they wanted to make sure no one wandered too long in this fucking place. This is Soul Valley, the main hub that connects all the major areas together. Yeah, so atypical for the Metroid series, all the major locales don't interconnect in any way. They're completely isolated from each other. So already the game's sense of progression feels a little more inorganic compared to other games. But the one thing they all have in common is what bridges them together, and that's this place. A humongous ass desert that acts as a decent enough playground for your bike, but I swear folks, that's the only bright spot of Soul Valley. Like, I did have my fun just fucking around with the bike and doing sick jumps off ramps and other inclines to get extra boost power, or the occasional missile upgrade, but Soul Valley in my eyes is open world done wrong. Simply put, there's just not enough to do in this son of a bitch to warrant the size. You can find a couple of expansion upgrades as you might expect. I don't know if this box belonged to anybody, but it's mine now. The only other thing outside of the plot related fetch quests involving the giant mecha are these Lamorne shrines that is clearly Metroid Prime trying to do the Breath of the Wild thing by giving Samus a mini puzzle to get an upgrade to her beam. But there's only a handful of these, I think about like 6 or so total, that is pitiful compared to the number of shrines you could find in Zelda. And maybe they didn't want to go overboard for the sake of making sure anyone with ADHD could actually finish the fucking game in under 15 hours. But I needed more of this to make my constant treks through this barren wasteland more engaging. I can't accurately describe how bummed I was when I decided to dedicate time to combing the desert to potentially find a bunch of things that could help me with my journey, but it was either a mech part that I couldn't do anything with until the story said I could, or one of the handful of shrines I couldn't explore because I didn't have the proper beam to even enter the area. There's not much else besides that shit. There needed to be more expansions, missiles, beam ammo, energy tanks. They're so few and far between outside of the ones you can find in shrines. And I think the devs realize this too because they try to fill the void by plastering these green crystals all over the fucking place. These are used to fuel this device that when you reach a certain quota can get you extra additional upgrades like a stronger power beam or a faster control beam for snappier puzzle solving. You even unlock a radar that lets you track where other green crystals are that in my eyes is so hilariously worthless because of just how abundant green crystals are in the desert. Your radar is always bursting with a bright green glow which obscures precise locations, making the whole point of a radar kind of moot. Collect enough green crystals after that, you get the legacy suit as I mentioned earlier, as well as the memory fruit from the sacred tree, which is needed to beat the game. Oh yes, the green crystals are mandatory, and fun fact, the game does not tell you this until it is time for endgame. The look on my face when I realized that was the case cannot be described. Now, you are told about the green crystals pretty early on, but the only significance that's highlighted is that you can nab extra things for Samus. Okay, so when you can, and if you want, maybe collect some of these along the way. Crash into green crystals when you can on the bike, break open those crystal caches inside shrines when you visit them, when you can visit them. Personally, I made it a thing to farm crystals through my journey because that's just how my brain is wired. I realized grabbing these things got me extra stuff, what I thought was extra stuff. I wanted to see what I could get, and I think before I even entered the Great Mines, I was maxed out. Huzzah! But then I get to the climax, and then they tell me I need the memory fruit to proceed to the end game, and I'm like, holy shit. Oh my god, the game just told me those green crystals were mandatory. And like, I was good. I already did all that because of my compulsions, but I have heard from enough of you guys, how many of you were caught off guard by this and suddenly found themselves farming green crystals just to finish the game? Like it or not, you can't be passive with green crystal gains. You have to grind for them. They are the artifacts, the Sky Temple keys, the energy cells, but I think this is at their absolute worst because of how insignificant they're treated and because of just how fucking boring it is to collect them in bulk. It's just a bunch of this. For a couple of hours, the game needed more of these crystal caches because the payouts for these are honestly not bad, but they're only in the handful of shrines offered in the world map, and the game needed to give you an earlier method for breaking these giant rocks that also have a bunch of crystals inside them, but they can only be destroyed when you get the power bomb, which you don't get until endgame. So you are getting most of your green crystals with your motorbike farm simulator, and Jesus Christ guys, it is the pits. After I finished my 100% playthrough for this video, I went and started a casual mode run through for curiosity's sake. Blitz through everything as fast as I could. Don't bother scanning things, only pick up expansions along the way from what I could remember. But as soon as I got the bike and realized, fuck man, I gotta farm these things again to beat the game, it was just an immediate turnoff. The idea of farming green crystals makes it very hard for me to consider revisiting this game because of just how mundane it is. I can turn my brain off and commit to a grind. I feel I have to as an RPG fan. But that's usually for something optional, something not needed for base completion, but Metroid Prime 4, you gotta do it. And unless there's some hyper optimized route I'm not familiar with, a big chunk of your time in this game is gonna be driving in this desert and smashing green rocks with your face. Oi, god damn it, this is the Arkham Knight and Bayonetta 3 of the Metroid Prime series to me, huh? It's technically a sound game, but fuck, it does a lot of stupid shit that just sours my whole opinion on it. The story is nothing to write home about, and the decision to keep Samus mute makes cutscenes between her and the Galactic Federation personnel just plain weird. The boss fights are great. Legitimately, they're some of the best parts of the game, and the only time we interact with Metroids in any capacity because they're nowhere else in this game at all. Like, I just find it so strange that Metroids in this game are just doing what Phazon did in the original trilogy. And that's literally it. So I have to wonder, it's like, why go in this direction? I couldn't tell you. The individual areas are fun enough to explore, but leave little to the imagination and get pretty routine in no time flat. God, I already bitched enough about Soul Valley, so I won't rub it in any further. And the green crystal implementation is so fucking clumsy that it genuinely makes the idea of revisiting this game a tough pill to swallow. I do think this game can make a great starting point for newbies. You don't really need to play the other games in the series to understand anything that's happening here. Not even Prime Hunters, because this game doesn't really feel like a continuation of that game outside of both games having Sylux, and he's barely used in both. Of course, I'd love to see the Prime series continue onward from this, but God, if it does, I hope Retro Studios has full authority from the start to avoid any potential development shenanigans caused from switching studios mid-development. Prime 4 reeks of compromise and half-baked ideas, and reading developer interviews after the fact reveals that, yeah, even the team knew what they had would seem odd and antiquated for 2025 standards. First-person adventure and open-world games have evolved immensely in the past decade, and Prime 4 feels like it takes no cues from any of them. They were too far into development that technically started in 2017 to start anew, and they didn't want to reset the project again when they felt fans have waited long enough. Personally, I would have been okay with another delay if it meant a better product. Come on, Metroid fans are used to waiting anyway, right? I know, I don't speak for all Metroid fans, but I have so much other shit in my backlog to play. What's another year or two? Again, what we got is still more than playable, and I had my fun when I could, but I would rather play any other Prime game before this one. So to reiterate, buyer beware, wait for a price drop. If that happens, it's first party Nintendo, so we'll see. Well, that wasn't exactly how I wanted my 2026 to begin, but even with some of my favorite franchises of all time, they all can't be winners. But in regards to 2026, now obviously I still have some videos left in the docket that I have to commit to at some point. I still got Spyro 3 Year of the Dragons to look at, and Castlevania Order of Ecclesia, which I just kind of left hung to dry after I paused the Castlevania handheld marathon that I think started in May of last year, and then it just never went away. It's kind of a blur to me. But this coming April is the 15th anniversary of the Johnny Versus series. Yeah, I started that in April of 2011. I'm sorry. But instead of just making one video to celebrate that occasion, I want to make 2026 just a year-long celebration of Somecallmejohnny. I want to go back and pay homage, or just try and reignite that spark of why you guys fell in love with this channel in the first place. And I'm hoping I can commit to that. I'm hoping that I can give you guys some form of entertainment that will remind you guys what is it about this channel you like, no matter what form it takes. It could be a versus video, it could be a spotlight, it could be a cartoon. I'm gonna try, goddammit, because I've been doing this for a while, and I recently just came back from MagFest 2026, and it was very busy. It was very crowded, but I did meet a lot of fans there of all ages. I met fans young, I met fans old. Some fans I met, they looked older than me. They had gray hairs and everything, and it's like, how the fuck did you discover my channel? But it served as a reminder that I still got plenty of people to entertain. I still got plenty of people that watch this channel. And I want to commit to just making this year something that everyone can enjoy. So here's to you, here's to a wonderful 2026. And I hope my body doesn't fucking fail on me this time in any regard, but I don't want to jinx myself. So with that said, I will see you guys in the next video. Ooh, wait a minute, I got so lost in the sauce in that unscripted end day, I almost forgot the damn patron shoutouts. So shoutouts to more of my $10 patrons over at my Patreon, patreon.com/Somecallmejohnny. So shoutouts to Quartz, Daisy Foxtrot, Timothy Charlton, Adam Petretta, Spider Luigi, Noah Wizbiles, Afik Eliyahu, I think that's how you pronounce the name, Kenny Rudder, Mason 309, Brownie Mutt, Zunker, Frozen North, Santiago 7, Jorge the Fallen JC, Master XXS, JD Grawl, Yusuf, Harold Ord, Ziern Fario, Gwen Armpits, Gredrick Stubby, Noah Filian, Dark Mercy, Anon Snake, Reaper Sakuraba, Torakage X, Hawkwing2652, B612 Gonzalo, Heckler Games, Colin Canut, Nicholas Scott, Yuma Crafter, Resin Ace, Morgan, Jack is back, Hellfire Revenant, Aiden Smith, Neolab, LOLY, Riga Kiryu, EIP, Schmitty, Caesar Super Crazy. I don't know how many times I pronounce Smitty's name, it just makes me laugh. The Manny Ton, True Texican, Cobalt Dragon, Arcanist729, P Cody, Matt Snake, Fighter 64, Cali Tunic, Engine and Tonic, Dr. Tex, Chim, Prowler, Sonic Fools 1234, Lars Russell, 8-Bit Bio, DF422, Riding on the Struggle Bus, Victory Star 527, Jerome Waters, Slant 16 Gamer, and finally for today, Jorge Azul. Now we can properly end the video off. Alright, so I will see you guys next time. Have yourselves a fantastic night, and take care. For real this time.